Hello, everybody. We're about 2 minutes out from the start of today's webinar, so just hang tight and we'll get things started shortly. Okay, so it's 10 a.m. Eastern Time, so we're going to get things started here. Hello and welcome. My name is Katie Mutter. I'm the event manager here at Senstar, and I'm joined today by Senstar Symphony product manager Tom Hofer. Today's going to lead us through what's new in Senstar Symphony version 8.7. But before we get started, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. So the webinar is being recorded. You'll receive a link to the replay via email very quickly after the event ends. If you have any questions today, please ask them in the questions tab. So you'll see that in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, assuming everyone's setup looks the same. So that is the best place to ask questions. All participants are muted to ensure the best sound quality for everyone. So if you do have questions, you'll need to use the questions panel. And then all questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Tom's going to go ahead and present, do a demo, and then we'll do a live Q&A portion. In addition to the questions panel, you'll also see there's a poll icon in the bottom right-hand corner. If you click on that, you'll see that I have pushed out a question to everybody. So if you're comfortable, please go there and answer that poll question. It's just something interesting that we thought we would like to learn about all of you. So that is it for me. Thank you so much for joining today's session. And Tom, the stage is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, where we are. Thank you so much, Katie, for the introduction, and let's go right into it. So we will talk about 8.7 release, which we released recently. We will talk about the new features that come with 8.7. We talk about some security improvements that we implemented in that version, some additional features that we thought from customer feedback would be very important for you. We're also really proud to announce that we have new artificial intelligence video engines that we can present to you, that you can use. I want to also discuss some minor features that we have in our clients that can be very useful for you. And then we will go into our live demo. So let's get right into it. Let's get with new features. So we've been working on artificial intelligence engines. So what does it mean? That means we have neural network engines that we train with data that we've collected over a decade now, like almost 15 years. We've collected video data and we use that to train our engines. So we are very focused on our vertical markets and where we go. And with that information, we can train our engines exactly for your needs. Those are the main benefits. Everyone knows that today you have the neural networking that you can train yourself and make sure that it works, as well as our common analytic engines that you can use still and are available in our platform. All this was only possible with the new video architecture that we had to implement for 8.7, which is running today as a beta for the client, but for the DNN or artificial intelligence video analytics, it's running today in the background on the server. This was a very important architectural change to implement future security needs. So if you look at video encryption, the new architecture allows us to encrypt video. So this is something that we will implement very shortly. But in order to do that, we had to completely re-architecture our video engine. So that was a very important step for us to give you a better performance, better stability, but also to enable us future-proofing the solution. We also started to support Profile M on the Profile M. So this is part of our goal that we say, okay, we have our own video analytics that we can offer you, our own artificial intelligence, but also use the one that comes with cameras. So today, if you buy a camera, most of them can offer you onboard edge analytics, and you can also use them with Profile M. Then we have updated some of our integrations. The highlight, I would say, is probably Salto access control integration, which we can now offer with 8.7. So if you have that, you have a full integration, and I will go into a little more details into that. And we have improved the support of Hanwha cameras. So we've worked very closely with them to get a deeper support and can offer you that. So when was it released? May 14th. So like a month ago, we released 8.7. What was in it? We have a total of 21 new features. So new features is obviously features that were brought to us by customers' requests or something that we think is important for moving forward. Then we made 78 improvements based on feedback from our customers, from you. We took that feedback and improved functionality of our solution and make sure it works better for you. We have also looked in the past and said which bugs are very important to us that you reported or that internally reported, and we found 214 bugs that we should fix in this release. On top of that is we released 308 regression issues. So regression means it's an issue that you find while implementing the solution. So this was found while testing. So we had several regression tests. That means we define a period of time where we test the newest version, and all the bugs that we find in this regression will be fixed. So this is only for something that was never released, that never made out to you, but we fixed it before releasing. So this is just speaks to the quality of the release, that it's fairly good, and you should feel comfortable using it. So let's talk about the next item, the security improvements. So in security improvements, basically we said what is important to us, also based on feedback that we've received from you. We've looked at what can we offer you that our solution is more attractive to you and your customers. So one of the things that we looked at is what architectural changes can we do internally to make sure that you can use our solution moving forward. So we updated some components internally where we know these have some exploits that you could use, or where we know that this is maybe outdated. So we updated a lot of internal architecture that allows you to say, okay, you're now more secure on the market. So that's very important that you can say, hey, you have a platform that is fairly secure and it is not that easy to crack. Then we looked at our hardening guide. Very important, the hardening guide, we basically went through and said what is really required. It was due to do that. So we went through it and we looked at what should be implemented, what's the best practices on the market. And we basically developed or overhauled the existing one, which was fairly small. But we now have a very comprehensive guide. A hardening guide, in case you're not aware of it, is a set of best practices and recommendations that are designed to enhance the security of your system, your network, and your application, as well as the operating system. So we have this and basically reduce the risk for you. So we recommend to use this. Also, our own hardware platform will follow this hardening guide. So when you get a hardening system from us, it will be implemented through the hardening guide. It will go through that. Just for your mind of ease, to put you at ease, and you can use that. We have also almost finished an official penetration test. So we performed it. It's almost finished. This week is the last week. And we will be able to have a report. If this is something that somebody needs, we are able to provide this moving forward. And it was very good feedback. So we had no critical issues, no high risk. So that is a very good information. And it makes us very proud of the solution. And we know we're on the right track. Excuse me. One of the things that we realized with the hardening guide is the operating system will allow you to talk on TLS 1.0 and 1.1. So our hardening guide recommends to disable that. Once it's disabled, our solution will only talk to TLS 1.2. So very important, you want to make sure that your security is up to date and that you follow this hardening guide. And if you have your own hardware solution, you could just take this guide and follow it, and then you should be fairly safe. So what did we do is, if you look at certificates, we basically said, okay, a certificate is something that you have to create for your environment, for your domain. And a lot of customers say, I want to have a certificate. Some say, I don't. I want a self-signed, or they already have their own. So we said, okay, during the setup wizard, when you run through it, you can go and say, I want to select my existing certificate. I want to select my authority, or you want to create your own. So you can basically now in the setup wizard already decide that and don't have to do it later on, and you start from scratch with a real certificate, maybe self-signed or not. There's different steps that you have to go through with self-signed versus having a certificate or authorization. But it's there now, and then you can easily apply it. It makes it a lot easier for you when you install it. The other thing that we started to enforce is password complexity. So we now enforce that you have at least 8 characters and a combination out of 3 different settings. So it can be small letters, capital letters, special characters, or numbers. So this is something we enforce now. It can be changed if you wanted to. You can increase it, which would be the recommendation. You could also decrease it, but it's not recommended. Then let's talk about some additional features. So what else did we develop that we focused on? So when we think about what customers, when they come to us and say, hey, this is something that you should look at. So we said, okay, what are the things that most customers complain to us lately? Is, for example, that you have a rule for an event, and that rule should do something. Now, when you finish it, you can't do anything with it. So let's pretend I have an alarm at my site and I want to turn on the lights. So you can do that in Symphony. You say, okay, I want to turn on a light. I want to trigger an IO. I want to set a sound, but then it will not stop. So now I say I have a guard that will work on that alarm. And once it finishes, nothing is there that you can do other than manually going in. So now you can automate that process. So if you say you acknowledge an alarm or you save it, and then you reset it or archive it, what you can do is on this event of resetting, you can say now you want to turn off all your lights or you want to turn off your siren. So you can automate it based through the rule engine. So you can take the state of an event as a trigger for a new rule that has an action tied to it. So it's very useful to just easily automate situations. And the other thing that customers came to us and said, could you do this, is something called scheduled events. So if you have a facility or a school or something that you say you want to lock down at a specific time. So for example, you have a store, all your employees leave at 6. So at 6:15, just to ensure you want to lock the store. Supposedly your employees were doing it, but also you can do it automated. So you can lock all your doors, you can close gates, whatever you want, and you can schedule those things. Or if you're a correction facility, you could say, I want to unmask all my areas, if they're masked, at specific times. So you say every time there's a shift change, automatically unmask everything. So there's different options that you can use this for and that you can implement. So a very useful feature moving forward. Then we also looked at the rules itself. So as you all know, Senstar offers software and hardware. So in our hardware, we have the PITS integration. So with PITS, if you, for example, look at a fire patrol unit, we have about 150 zones for a fire patrol. So if you go to a site and you have to create 150 alarms and rules, that's a lot of work for somebody to go in there. So what we said is we want to focus on how you create rules and how you can deploy a site. So if I go into this, it would be fairly easy to say I have an engine here, as you can see. I'm just going to use my laser pointer here. So here I can say I want no sensor rules. That would mean I won't create any rules automatically. I want one global rule. which means if you have a system and you have several processors connected to it, it will create one rule for all the processors. So if you had, for example, 2 ultralinks and 4 flex zones, it will create one rule. Then you can have a device alarm rule. So in this device alarm rule, if you have 2 ultralinks and 4 flex zones, it will be 6 rules. And then the last step, if we go back to the example of the fire patrol with 150 zones, it would now create 150 rules for you. So you can have 150 rules automatically created for you. And it can differentiate between alarm and diagnostic alarms. So this is very important. One is the one that you want for diagnostic, if something's wrong with the sensor, and this is the one that you want for an alarm or an event. So we differentiate between those two. And we also implemented an enhanced alarm management, which allows you to say, I can reset an alarm without the need to give it a text field. So there's no comment required anymore. So if I look here, we have the reason text field is optional. So it means if you mark an alarm and you're finished with it, you don't have to put a reason in there. You can use the classification, as you know, in the dropdown or however you want to do that. And the other very important thing is here you see require integration state change. So that means if you have, for example, one of our fire patrol units installed and you have an alarm and then you want to reset it, you can only reset it if the alarm disappeared. So if the intruder is still on the fence and still causing alarms, you cannot reset it until it's really over. So this is a very useful feature to say you want to not be able to reset something while the alarm is still active. So a very useful feature, and that's why we implemented this here. And also you can just aggregate alarms if you have situations where you have a lot of alarms for whatever reason. You can just aggregate them into one alarm, and then it's easy for you to manage that. And you can say, what is the timeout? So all alarms within the last 5 minutes, you want to have only one instead of 15 for whatever reason. So it's up to you to make the decision how you want to aggregate them. As I mentioned earlier, we worked very closely with Hanwha support, and they sent us a lot of cameras to test, and we added 12 cameras to our support device list. We also support edge storage for Hanwha with the native driver. So obviously you can do it through OnWave Profile G to support it with most vendors today. And we support some vendors with the native driver, and now Hanwha is also with the native driver supported in our platform. And we also used Hanwha, a lot of Hanwha cameras for our Profile M testing. So we worked very closely with them and looked at a lot of cameras, and we worked with other manufacturers as well. But with Hanwha, since we got a lot of cameras that support Profile M, we were able to test it very deeply and verify it in our system. Speaking of Profile M, so we have OnWave Profile M support now. Like I mentioned, we tested several vendors that offer Profile M in the cameras. We have implemented the tracking through Profile M and the classification. Obviously, there's room for improvement. So if you look at the classification, we have reduced it from what the camera can deliver to vehicles, people, and unknown objects. Moving forward, the goal is to implement more classes. As you can imagine, even our AI has classes built into the system that can differentiate between a vehicle, a truck, a bicycle. So you have all these classes built in that we can offer you today, and we will have basically packages that can do that moving forward. However, today we wanted to stick to the most important one for parameter intrusion, which is vehicle, people, and unknown objects. Unknown object with the new engine will basically take all animals that we can detect and categorize them as an unknown object. And people is people, and vehicle may be a bus or a truck or a car, are all vehicles. And the same goes for the Profile M. All the vehicle classes that we receive from the camera will be categorized in those 3 groups for now. But there will be more coming. And just as a sample, when you add one of the cameras that support Profile M, like here we're using a Hanwha camera, we automatically detect that the camera has Profile M. We will give you the option here to say you want to use the Profile M. you can go in and you can then configure the profile solution. For integrations, we have updated some of our integrations. So we worked for Software House, Secure 9000, and updated the integration there. But we have also done Salto integration, which I wanted to highlight here. We basically have a new integration with Salto, and we support the latest version. And it's a bidirectional communication. That means we receive events from there, and we can also send commands there. So all the events that they deliver, you can receive here when you add the system, but you can also send the commands that are available on their system from us to them. So in the device tree on the map, wherever you put the devices, you can actually send commands there, and you can remotely unlock a door, momentarily unlock a door, all the things that you're used to from an access control, we can use now with Salto integration. On top of that, we also updated our Phoenix integration. So some of you may be aware that we used to support it with the old driver, but now we also have an integration with a new driver and 64-bit support. That's why we had to redo the integration, because the old one was only 32-bit. But as you all know, our platform is 64-bit, and that's why we had to update this integration as well. So very important integrations moving forward, and we continue to add more integrations as we go. So we will focus on having more integrations every couple of months, something that you can look forward to. And if you say, hey, this is something that we are looking for, this is very important for our market, please let us know. Feedback is very important, so we know what to develop, obviously, because we want to make sure that our solution fits your needs. Now let's go to the topic of the new artificial video intelligence. So if we look at this, we have looked at obviously the solutions out there. We took some of them and we developed them, we trained them, and now what we can offer you is something sort of unique. So you have our current solution all the way on the right here, which has resolution for running the analytics, medium resolution. It has a medium detection. The classification works fairly well, but could be better. It can detect objects far away, but it is not tied to a training set. So it can sometimes do better classification if the object is far away or doing something that you're not expecting. But also it can wrongly detect and classify objects in some situations. The tracking is also fairly decent on the current AI engine that we have. But if you use the new neural networking AI engine that we offer, we have two options. The one is GPU and one is CPU. Obviously, on GPU, we can do a lot more than on a CPU. So the resolution is a lot higher that you can run on a GPU because it has a lot more power. With the CPU version, we only have a low resolution. If you go for detection range with the GPU, because you can use a higher resolution, you can go further. So you can detect objects a lot further. And based on the GPU versus the current one, it's also with the new GPU, you can go further because you can have more potential to run and analyze each stream. The classification is more accurate because you train the objects. You can say, what is a human? What is this? What is a bus? So you train your model, and based on that, it will be fairly accurate. And you can train it also on scenarios. So as you will see, we have three different solutions that we can offer now in 8.7, and I will go into them. But you can see what training an engine needs. The CPU one has also good classification, but again, it's only for lower resolution. So for indoor environment, it's perfectly acceptable. For outdoor, it could be that it's not far enough. And then the tracking itself with the new GPU, it's very impressive. It's really good tracking. And with the CPU version, it's good tracking. So this is something that works with all three and that it can use. So if we talk about GPU-based analytics, what is important for you is you want to use the GPU, the graphic card, with CUDA support. So if you want to use our new AI engine with the GPU version, not the CPU version, you have to have an NVIDIA CUDA support. So there's different graphic cards that we could recommend you, depending on what your needs are. But if you go with a GeForce RTX 3090 or 3080, you're fairly good. Those are really good cards. Obviously, 4090 is a lot better. How does it help you if you go for GPU? As I mentioned earlier, the advantage, you have really good tracking, you have far distance, and fairly good classification. And then on the client itself, we also look at how we can use this for our client, because our 8.7 client has potentially the new video engine built in as well. So if you want to test it, it's right now in a testing program. If you have your client 8.7 or later installed, and you just want to test a new video engine, all you would have to do is you press Control on your keyboard and you drag a camera in a panel. You will see that each panel will then have a decoration that says Video Panel, and that is the new player, and you can see the difference if you look at your task manager that it will use more GPU. So very interesting to test this for you. What's very important is if you look at the different options of graphic cards, so here we see the RTX 40 series and 30 series. What we use on the client is NVDEC. That's very important to us. So the better the performance is, the more panels you can display and higher resolution and higher frame rate. So here you see that both of them have a Gen 5, so they're both really good. Obviously, you can go for lower ones, and we have done some testing that I will give you kind of an overview on the Gen 3, but also like you can run it on a simple laptop. So there's a lot of options that you can do that I will show you in a second. What is important is if you don't have a GPU in your server, we can always fall back on a CPU, maybe Intel or AMD, but the accuracy, as I mentioned, will be reduced. So it's not as good as a GPU, but you can still fall back and use it. And it is fairly good. We tested it. It's just not as good. So here we have a sample of our auto tracking. So if I look on the left-hand side, we have our old auto tracking, our common auto tracking that we've been using. I'm just going to get rid of my laser pointer, start the video here. So on the left is our current one that you have been known for many years. And this is a very challenging video because, as you can see, it has a lot of people. So the common engine merges all those objects together. And if I click on the new engine, it sees, oh, I can classify a lot of people. It classifies cars and can really differentiate all the different objects. So the object segmentation is a lot better on the newer engine than the common engine. So this is something to keep in mind if you say you want to use the AI DNN engine. This is something that will help you a lot in these situations. This is an extreme situation, but you see the benefits of using our common versus the AI very clearly here. Then we have here our AI overhead people tracking and counting. So we developed something for overhead people counting and tracking. So if I look here, this video, this is our common one that we have developed for several years. And you see the tracking is fairly good as long as people are not too close to each other. And now here you see, I'm going to get my laser pointer back here. So here you see we have one person. So there's a group of 4 people. It forgot them for a while because they were standing still. So they became part of the background. And it's only one person now that one moved a little bit. So the object segmentation, as I mentioned earlier, is not the best on that engine. So if I would go now and say, load the next one, which with the AI engine, so you can see here, it detects more people. It will follow them very closely. If people go close together, like here at the top, then it will basically detect all of them and it will track them all. So very fairly accurate and really good results that we have seen in the market. So we've been testing this AI overhead for a while now, and the results are really promising and really exciting to see that. And then we have developed, because a lot of our customers do use thermal cameras. So we said, okay, let's implement this. And here you see a common one that we've offered you for many, many years. You see that the car is coming, there's 2 people and one gets out. We kind of forget him and then we track him again. So it works fairly well. And then in comparison, if we go to the AI thermal, the new one, it says, hey, there's 2 people in there, which is correct. There's 2 people. It doesn't detect the card right away. And then eventually it says, okay, it detects the card as a card if it doesn't see the person anymore. But as you can see here, we can really classify objects, and we don't classify it based on the size. So we can train the engine and say, this is what we expect it to be. So the difference here between the two is always the AI is a trained model. And this is something we can do in-house. We train the model until we think it's satisfying, it has good results, and then we can release it. So this is also something we will work moving forward, have more models, more engines that we can offer you. So this was the overview on the AI engines. Now let's go to some more additional features and functionality on the client. So if I look here, we did some map improvements. So as you can see here, I have a rule, and I'm gonna get my laser pointer back here. So I can have a rule, and I can put a rule on the map, and it can be used as a button. So I can use this to say I want to open a gate, close a gate, mask a sally port. So it can be used for a lot of things. At the same time, all the zones that I can have on the map, I can now have an action. So I can go in and say I want to mask a node. You can acknowledge alarms and reset alarms directly from the map. So there's no need for you to go anywhere else, and you can do everything from the map directly. So very, very intuitive now, the software, and you have multiple ways to do things. It just makes it easier for you to use and you operate as well. The layout engine. So one of the things that we did is we looked at the stability of the system and what we can do to improve. And while doing so, we realized that we have a new layout engine, which allows us to be a more clean and reliable UI. So we replaced the engine with a new layout engine in the background, also for security purposes, because we wanted to make sure that we have that in mind. And then as a benefit, we had a very clean layout that I can now define exactly and use the way I want it. So in this case, you see I have at the top, I have a map in my panel. I have a browser there. I can have here an overview. I can have here another camera view, and I have here 4 tiles. So you can define really clean your UI now and use the cameras the way you want it. And you can combine maps, browsers, and cameras in the same panel. So very useful moving forward. Then one of the requirements that we received from our customers was we want to allow them to lock the client and really restrict an operator what they can do on a client. So we implemented 2 new features. One is alarm handling and search and export. So those are things that you can now lock down on the client, so the operator is not able to do that. At the same time, one of the feedbacks was that we used this lock symbol to synchronize the time on the playback. So this was always kind of like something that we accepted, but the market didn't. So we had a lot of feedback about this, and we said, okay, let's fix this. So now you have a synchronize icon that will allow you to synchronize the time. So it makes a lot more sense. But then you can say on a floating view, you can lock the panel. So locking the panel means that you prevent user action. So if you set up a multi-view and you want to make sure this is only for alarming and the operator doesn't change anything, you can lock it now, use that for your alarm panel, and the user cannot change anything on those panels. So it basically can have separate monitor on the same machine, but the user cannot do anything about it. And it's really based on the system decides what should be displayed. And speaking about what the system decides to display, we have also looked at the panel call-up. So if you have an alarm, the system now allows you to go in and say, I want to have 4 cameras that should be displayed on my multi-view. So those 4 cameras, I can now assign panel names. So I go in and say panel 1 for this camera, 3 for this camera, 2 for this, and 4 for this. So here you select which cameras, then you name the target panels. Then you would go in and you go into your design. And here you go, say the left top is panel 1, right top is panel 2, panel 3, panel 4. So you can now define each panel and you say this is panel 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is how you would do it. So what you can do here is you just name them, define them, and then you can use other panels. So you would say that this is my alarm panel and all other 3 should be my switch panel as well. Once you finish the implementation, it will just automatically call those panels whenever there's an alarm. And I have a small video that I will show in a second that can show exactly how to do it. We've also looked at something that a lot of people are using, and that's the timeline. So the timeline was something that was fairly good, but it had a lot of issues in the back, and we basically redesigned it and made it a lot faster and slicker for you to use. So you have faster exits, it's improved handling, it's more accurate. Some things that you may even not have realized in the past that we did are now fixed. I know not too many people probably see it because not a lot of them are being used, but we saw issues where you had timeline issues that you may not even be aware that have been fixed now. Just with accuracy of what is displayed where exactly in the timeline. So all these things have been updated and implemented in 8.7. So very important to look at that. And now let's go to the panel design itself. So if I look at this, you see here, you can see it fairly quick. I have my 4 cameras, I get an alarm. So you see here the alarm, and it switches all 4 panels. So this is my normal setup, alarm comes in, automatically switches all the 4 panels. So those are 4 named panels, and I can simply configure them which camera should go where. And if I have an alarm, it automatically switches. So very intuitive and very easy to configure and very useful for a lot of situations. So now let's look at the performance. So one of the things is when we implemented the new video architecture, we call it internally video pipeline. When we did the new video architecture, we looked at what did we used to be able to do. So we looked at a computer that we have in-house, has a graphic card, a GeForce 1060, and we looked, if I have an H.264 stream with a 720p resolution, I can do 30 panels. 1080, I can do 17 panels, and 4K, I can do 5 panels. If I now switch to H.265, I can do 25 panels on 720p, 12 panels on 1080, and 5 on 4K. And keep in mind, all of those 25 FPS. So this is the result from what you can do today. And now we said, okay, let's look at if we use our GPU on the new ST player that's experimental in 8.7, so you can test it. And very soon it will be a standard player. And if you look there, you can now use 63 panels on 720p, 27 on 1080, and 4K 7. So slight improvement on 4K, huge improvement on 1080p. But what is really exciting is, depending on the graphic card you use, your H.265 performance will be a lot better. So here we were able to go to 37, 1080p 26, and 4K still 7. So if you look at the comparison, and we look at the improvement, we can see here the improvement from old to new is 20% on 720p, which is H.264, 37% on H.265. And the real nice improvement was on 1080p. So here we have 59% improvement on H.264, but 117% improvement on H.265. So if you look back here, it was 12 streams or 12 panels on the CPU, and now 26. So this is a huge improvement. So depending on the graphic card that you're using, you can actually have more H.265 streams moving forward than before. So this is really, really nice improvement. As a sample, I just tried this on my laptop, which is a normal laptop, and I said I want to just put up 16 panels with 25 FPS. And you see here my CPU is around 70%, and my GPU is also being used by 70%. So this is a fairly standard machine, and this I can easily do on my laptop now. So a very nice improvement that we have here in our client. And with that, we will go to a short live demo of some features, and then we go into our questions. So for the live demo, I will just go in here, and I will show you my map first. So I'm going to go here to my maps, and I'm going to show you my maps here. So it loads the map. So as I mentioned earlier, I can go in here, and I have my lock facility. So I create a rule, and I just call it lock facility. So if I click on this, it would lock all my doors or gates or whatever you have in your facility. And here you can say, I want another rule that just locks my facility here, my safety rule. So you can create the different rules that have different actions, and you can just go in and configure them. And then if I go here, and I go to one of my rules here, and let's just say I'm going to use this test rule here. And now in Actions itself, I can go in and say, I want to have 4 cameras. So let's just say those 4 cameras. And now while adding them as an alarm other cameras, while adding them here, I get here 4 panels. So this panel I can now call panel 1, panel 3, panel 2. It looks like I've done this before. So I just call them panel 1, 2, 3, 4. And now if I have a multi-view, I can also call them with the same name. It will automatically, when this rule comes in, change those cameras, those panels to those cameras. So what I would do is I would go in here, get a multi-view here. And now I go in here, go to my first panel, settings. And all I have to do is I go to activity, say show alarm camera, and switch other camera, child. And now I would go in here. This is my panel 1. Apply and OK. Settings. This is my panel 2. Apply in settings, panel 3, and so forth. Once you're done with that and you have an alarm for this specific rule, it will automatically just switch all your panels here to those cameras that you selected in the rule. So moving forward, if you have a setup where you say I want to have exact cameras that you want to have somewhere, then it will automatically do this for you. Or in this case, I had a different camera that just comes up here and connects. Then I want to show you the licensing. So if you go in here to licenses, let's not save this. So you see here I have 2 new licenses, AI object detection and AI thermal tracking. Also, there's an AI overhead people counting, which I didn't give to the server yet. But basically, with those licensing, you can run those engines. If you would go to a trial today, you will have all these licensing in there. And then I will show you one last feature that I mentioned earlier. If I go to a multi-view here, so I just call up a multi-view again, and I try to get to this monitor. So I mentioned earlier, you have here your synchronize or lock times on navigation, and you can here prevent user from interaction. So if I would go in here now and try to change this from my camera panel here, and I take a camera, and I just move this in here. You see I cannot do this anymore. So user action is prevented. If I unlock this, and I go back to my client, and I move the camera, it automatically comes in here. So very easy to use and very quick to use. And that was my quick demo for the day. And now let's go to our last item, which is the questions.
Hey, thanks so much for that, Tom. We've had all kinds of great questions come in. So we can take some time now to answer those, and others we can, I don't know if you can see the questions panel now that you're not presenting. Some of them can probably be answered. But I'm going to go ahead, through typing, but I'm going to go ahead and read some out loud to you right now. Okay, so this one's fairly specific, but so this customer is currently on Symphony 8.6.3.0. So what version do they install of 8.7 to upgrade to the release? Is that something you just want to chat with them about?
Yeah, so basically if you have 8.6.3 and you have maintenance and support still active, you can upgrade to 8.7 today. You can use 8.7 or 8.7.1, which we released last week. So you can upgrade to either version and you will have that option. So if you have MNS active, you can do that today.
Okay.
I hope that answered the question.
Thank you. What about Hanwha metadata from cameras? Is that integrated?
Yes, it is. So we do support Hanwha with Profile M, and we receive the metadata. And as I mentioned, we are still working on offering more of that metadata through our UI. Right now, we combine it into different categories, but it will get more granular as we go. So there's always improvements, and we're working very close with Hanwha to get more of those into the system.
Awesome. Has a Vigilon camera support been added? OnVIF doesn't cut it for the new series they have released.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. Do the AI-based analytics require a special license?
Yes, they do. So we offer 3 licenses. With the trial, you get to test them. there's an upgrade path as well. So you can upgrade if you have a core license today and you want to switch to an AI. We have an upgrade path that you can discuss with your RSM, and they will help you to move them over to an AI. And or if it's a new system, you can just order those licensing as you need. So each of the AI engines that I presented today, the AI overhead, AI object detection and tracking, as well as AI thermal object tracking, are available as a license that you can install and purchase, and then you can just run it.
Okay, thank you. Are all the camera analytics available for Axis, Hanwha, Hikvision within Symphony 8.7?
So all the analytics that follow the Profile M standard are available today. So if it follows the Profile M, it is available. One of the things that we noticed is even though sometimes you follow Profile M, it's not 100% Profile M. And this is something that we've noticed over the past 10 years already, working with OnWave. Just because it is OnWave doesn't always mean it follows OnWave. So one thing that you should probably test before you go out, but most likely it will work.
Okay. So one of our customers says they use thermal cameras in their installation, many thermal cameras. Would it be difficult to implement the AI-based analytics, or is it intuitive?
It is very intuitive. The UI is fairly simple. For it to run for AI thermal, you probably just enable it and configure the resolution, and you're done. There is a perspective information, which we only use for distance. If you want to use something like dwelling or speed, then you have to adjust the perspective, but you don't even have to. So it's really like 2 buttons and a mask, and you're done. So it is fairly simple.
Okay. Has the client been updated to allow for more than 25 panels easily?
So we don't offer it out of the box, but you can create your own layout and use that. So this is same as before. We just don't see a lot of value because we don't often see customers using more than 25 to offer a button that offers more. But you can basically create your own layout with 36 panels or however many you want and run it that way. What you have to keep in mind is that you make sure that your stream, if you want to run 36 panels on a monitor, and I'm assuming you run it on a big screen, and you have 36, that you have not all of the cameras in 4K, because that will be very hard for the client to manage. Even with GPU, it will probably not achieve that. So you have to have a second stream that can offer deliver the stream and the necessary GPU load.
Okay, sorry, we have all kinds of questions coming in now. I guess we'll keep going for a couple more minutes, and then maybe, Tom, you and I will just stay on the line and answer some of them directly. Some of them I can answer, and some will need to be you. Excuse me. With the Salto integration, does Symphony log user privileges and rejections?
So if I understand the question correctly, and it means that we get the event from Salto that this card was rejected, we will log it in our system as well. And you can obviously alarm on it if you want to.
Okay. I don't know where that came from. Will the new Senstar multi-sensor work with Senstar Symphony?
Of course.
Sorry. Okay, I'm just trying to keep track here. There's a bunch. So some of them, they're late, so you may have answered this and they missed it. But does the ALPR still require a dongle or PCI license device?
So we do offer two solutions. One is our core analytics, which is our own LPR that does not require the PCI dongle or USB dongle. Or if you want to get the enhanced one, the OEM version solution from us, then you have to use the dongle, unfortunately.
All right, sorry, I muted myself. I was coughing. Okay, I'm just going to do one more question, and then maybe we'll just do the rest of them in the chat directly.
Or we will just reach out after directly with you.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that. I have a little spiel for the end. Can AI analytics deal with scenarios like crawling?
So depends on the crawling. There's a chance that we will receive it, but that's a very good example. So we have trained it a little bit, but not enough. I would say that it's that accurate. But it's definitely one of the challenges that everybody knows in the field. When you have an AI engine and you train it on the person, we detect it if you can partially see it. The crawling, if you know how to crawl and exactly which angle, we might miss it. So that's a very good example where AI might not be the best option if you want to detect crawling and you want to go with a common engine. So this is kind of like an edge case where it could be better to go, or a combination of both.
Awesome. Okay, well, Tom, thank you so much for all of the information you've given everybody today. And I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody who joined us. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to Tom directly or your local sales manager. You can use the Contact Us page on the website to find contact information for your sales manager. If you don't know their information, it's all there. Feel free to check out the website if you aren't currently a Symphony user. We do offer free trials of Senstar Symphony right on the website. So again, thank you to everybody. As I mentioned earlier, this session was recorded and it will be emailed to you shortly after we hang up. So thanks again and have a great day, afternoon, evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.